So I have a question for those of you living in the UK. What is it with your police investigating people's tweets? Especially when they're not considered actual crimes but non-crime hate incidents. Don't they have better things to do? Apparently not. Recall a couple of weeks ago I reported on Harry Miller, who was questioned by Humberside Police about some tweets. In particular, a tweet he liked in the form of a limerick that described transgender women as not being real women. When Miller pointed out that he didn't write the tweet but merely liked it, the officer that questioned Miller said that he wanted to check his thinking. At the time I labelled this as peak Orwell, but perhaps I spoke too soon. Last Monday, 74-year-old Margaret Nelson from Suffolk was woken by a phone call from Suffolk Police wanting to talk to her about her Twitter account and her blog. One of the tweets in question was this one: "Gender's fashionable nonsense. Sex is real. I've no reason to feel ashamed of stating the truth. The bloody annoying ones are those who use words like cis or TERF and other BS and relegate biological women to a subset. Sorry you believe the mythology." Hardly controversial, most people probably subscribe to that view. Also, this blog post of hers titled "Death Doesn't Misgender, You Die As You Were Born" was deemed, dare I say it, problematic according to the police that questioned her. Here's how the phone call with the officer went down. The officer said that she wanted to talk to me about some of the things I'd written on Twitter and my blog. She said that some of the things that I'd written could have upset or offended transgender people. So could I please stop writing things like that, and perhaps I could remove those posts and tweets. I asked the officer if she agreed that free speech was important. She said it was. I said in that case, she'd understand that I wouldn't be removing the posts or stopping saying the things I think. She accepted that, and that was the end of the conversation. And here she is again relaying that story on ITV.
She suggested that I might sort of desist. I said no, I'm going to carry on speaking my mind, or writing my mind as it were, and we left it at that. But I think it's unfortunate that they are being asked, because they've had training along these lines, to police free speech.
Now, she brings up an interesting point here about the fact that these police officers have had training to do this, as did the officer that called Harry Miller, which goes back to my initial question. Where's all this coming from? And as James Kirkup of The Spectator wrote, why are the police acting in this way? What training have officers received in relation to transgender issues, and from whom? Are some people or organisations deliberately and vexatiously exploiting some police forces' stance on this issue to instigate police action against people who say things they don't like? Could such police actions exert a chilling effect on the expression of opinion on transgender issues? Isn't it possible that some people will now think I'd best not say what I think about sex and gender, or the police might get involved? There are also some questions of principle. Is it the job of police officers to act in such a way, to police private lawful expressions of opinion, simply because some people complain that they find those expressions of opinion upsetting or unkind? What are the police for? The explanation from the police was that they had a number of people contact them on social media about the comments made online, and a follow-up call was made for no other reason than to raise awareness of the complaints. So again, is it the job of the police to call up citizens to let them know that something they said online had offended someone? I wouldn't have thought so, but that's probably just me not being hip to the priorities of the Suffolk Wokeforce. Now, subsequent to the Spectator article, the Suffolk Police sent a statement admitting error. We accept we made a misjudgment in following up a complaint regarding the blog. As a result of this, we will be reviewing our procedures for dealing with such matters. We are sorry for any distress we may have caused in the way this issue was dealt with, and have been in contact with the woman who wrote the blog to apologise. So again, why are they doing this? And if anyone has any information about who's doing the training of these officers and what organisation they belong to, I'd love to do some digging on that issue. Now, just a few days ago, we learned that a woman was arrested and locked in a cell for 7 hours after calling a transgender woman a man on Twitter. Mrs. Kate Scotto, I don't know, has been served with a court order that bans her from posting any personal information about Miss Hayden on social media, referencing her as a man or linking her to her former male identity, or dead naming. Now, we should be clear that she did more than just like a tweet. According to High Court papers, she is alleged to have tweeted defamatory messages about Miss Stephanie Hayden. She is also alleged to have used accounts in 2 names to harass, defame and publish derogatory and defamatory tweets about Miss Hayden, including referring to her as male, stating she was racist, xenophobic and a crook, and mocking her as a fake lawyer. This was all after getting into an argument about dead naming, which is now a bannable offence on Twitter. And there's a tweet thread documenting some alleged harassment of other trans women, not Stephanie Hayden, using one of her aliases, complete with screenshots detailing some of the abuse. One of the tweets alleges that she directed a harassment campaign towards Stephanie Hayden, although no proof is supplied, and she praised Kiwi Farms, which this person claims is a forum known for doxing and harassment of people, especially trans folks. It also should be said that Stephanie Hayden has formed. She reported sitcom writer Graham Lynham to Yorkshire Police for referring to her by her previous names and pronouns on Twitter, for which he received a verbal harassment warning from the Yorkshire Police. So I think this case is a little different. The media reporting portrays this story as essentially the same as the Harry Miller and Margaret Nelson stories. But I think if you're creating multiple fake accounts to abuse someone on Twitter, then it's probably a good idea to at least have a look in the mirror and ask yourself what the hell you're doing and take some time off Twitter. But was being detained in a cell for 7 hours necessary? I don't know, but this woman does kind of annoy me. She claims she was detained for 7 hours in a cell with no sanitary products, which I said I needed. Well, I bet a lot of people think they need shit when they're thrown in jail, but that's kind of the point of being in jail. You don't get your every need catered to. As for the court injunction, unless there are details we don't know yet, it does seem over the top. I mean, on Twitter you can block anyone you like, and of course you can report people to Big Brother Jack if you're being harassed. Why do the police have to get involved unless there are threats of physical violence, which doesn't appear to be the case? Now, at the end of my last video on this topic, I said the following. Speaking for myself, I don't believe in the nonsensical category of hate speech, nor do I believe in hate crimes. And given what passes for a hate crime in the UK, I would say statistics on hate crime and non-crime hate incidents should not be taken seriously. So I want to give you a flavour of the types of incidents that make their way into the non-crime hate incident category. As you know, the Harry Miller and Margaret Nelson cases are not hate crimes, but they will be recorded as non-crime hate incidences and will become part of next year's statistics. Now, here are some even more ludicrous examples, courtesy of the Spiked podcast from a couple of weeks ago.
If you look into some of the incidents that have been recorded, I mean, this limerick will appear on next year's figures, which will be exciting. But last year, some of the figures included a dog poo being discovered, a neighbour deciding that this dog poo was a racist incident. Someone several years ago announced in his local library that he was going to campaign for Brexit. So someone told the police, and that was recorded as a police incident. An old age pensioner beeped her horn at someone, and then it transpired that the person in the car in front was black. Someone told the police, and this was recorded as an incident. And all of these things pile up and create a picture of this horrific, evil, hateful society that we supposedly live in.
Remember, for an incident to be recorded as a non-crime hate incident, it only requires that you believe it was motivated by hostility or prejudice based on one of these 5 characteristics. It requires no corroboration from any other witness, and as you heard from the honking horn incident, it doesn't even have to be the alleged victim. It could simply be an onlooker. But what do the statistics say anyway? Well, there are essentially 2 sources: hate crimes as recorded by the English and Welsh police, and a large-scale survey, the Crime Survey for England and Wales. There were 94,000 hate crimes recorded by police in 2017-18, an increase of 17% on the previous year. But the police themselves say that they believe this increase was thought to have been driven by improvements in crime recording by the police following a review of Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire Rescue Services in 2014, and the removal of the designation of police recorded crime as national statistics. It also thought that growing awareness of hate crime is likely to have led to improved identification of such offences. Now, the CSEW survey is a face-to-face survey, so it is unaffected by changes in reporting rates or police activity, and it picks up crimes that weren't reported to the police. According to this survey, there were around 184,000 incidents of hate crime in 2017-18, which is down 40% from a decade ago. So if someone you know is trying to drum up fear over these spurious statistics, you might want to point out that despite the eagerness of the hate archaeologists to unearth as much hate as possible, the UK, or at least England and Wales, is actually a much more tolerant society than it was a decade ago, before Brexit and before the terrorist attacks of recent years, according to surveys of its own citizens. I'll see you next time.